Hello out there in cryptocurrency land. Welcome back to Real Crypto. All right, ladies and gentlemen, my last video we talked about Bitcoin 10,000 being that line in the sand, and we're about to test that line. It looks like it's happening very, very quickly here. 10,300 currently. If we zoom in here, what we see is some very big downside candles happening here. This can imply one of two things: an acceleration to the downside, or it can imply a short-term bottom. So only time will tell how that plays out. But if we zoom in here on this 1 hour chart, so far it's not looking super healthy for a downside bounce specifically. Looks like we could be headed lower. We already have a lower low. We've already taken out this low with this particular low. So even if we do get a nice bounce up, this trend line here is going to be resistance going forward. And this is a very clear break of this trend line. I don't think we're even going to come close to touching this. If we break to the downside here, when we break 10,000, if it's a very quick and swift break, that is not good. If we get a very large break of this, that is very unhealthy action. That would take us much lower, and that would actually put a ceiling in for 10,000. That would put a ceiling in, okay? So what that means is that as we come up back towards 10,000, because we're going to get a bounce like this, right? So if we kind of use this as our roadmap. Now, the reason why this didn't break out is, keep in mind, we basically went straight down from this 13,000 all the way down to 9,000. That was much too steep of a drop for us to sustain going under 10,000. 10,000 is a huge psychological barrier, so a lot of people were looking here to buy it under 10,000 because it was the first time we've seen 10,000 in quite some time. Over here, it's a different story. Over here, people are thinking, oh, wow, 10,000 actually looks like it's going lower, okay? So we came up, we tested 13,000, we failed that, and then we've had lower highs ever since. We put in a double, a triple top here, and now we're rolling over and heading lower. So this overall is looking very bearish, and it looks like it's going to continue lower. If we get that big break through 10,000, when we get the bounce up like this, because we will at some point, we will get this bounce, we're going to see a hard cap at 10,000 somewhere like this. So if you notice here, we broke through 13,000 pretty definitively. We didn't have any pauses really, a very small pause here and then a quick break, and we never revisited it until several days later, about a week later or so at this point, and we failed that test. We may do the same thing with Bitcoin, where we cross 10,000 definitively, and then we kind of bounce up, and then we fail 10,000, and then we continue lower. Bear markets like this, ladies and gentlemen, they behave in certain fashions. You have to have a lot of patience. You have to understand the market that we're in, and you have to trade that accordingly, all right? So, shameless plug here, I'm actually doing a webinar on this exact topic of market cycles, how to spot market cycles, cycles within market cycles. That seems a little convoluted, but every market has uptrends and downtrends depending on the time frame. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how to spot market tops, how to spot market bottoms, and how to navigate that transition between the two. And that's extremely difficult. And this is definitely going to give you a leg up in learning that process. So go to my website, real-crypto.com. Check out the registration there. There is a charge for the webinar. It's 22 bucks. It's going to be, I'm anticipating, a 2-hour webinar, an hour of presentation with an hour of Q&A with you guys. Looking forward to the Q&A. So yeah, Bitcoin 10,000. There's your road mark there. Below 10,000, we're gonna stay below 10,000 because psychologically, if we go back below 10,000, as we get back up towards 10,000, people are gonna think, oh, I'm gonna sell over 10,000, and eventually you won't be able to sell over 10,000 as we continue to grind lower here. So there is the case here that I mentioned for Bitcoin 6,000. Let me run you through that. So if you take a measured move here from this last drop that we had, from the top of that drop to the bottom of that drop, right there, if we extrapolate that downwards, that puts us down here towards 58.82 is the bottom of this specific trend line, or Bitcoin 6,000. So that is a possibility that we get down towards Bitcoin 6,000. This isn't my favorite price target, to be quite frank with you. A measured move is not a definitive chart pattern, more of a price action continuation. Like I said, it's an Elliott wave, kind of 1, 2, 3, A, B, C, whatever you want, whatever type of pattern you want to call that. I call it a measured move, and that's the next leg lower. It looks like potentially in Bitcoin. We don't have to get there. Measured moves aren't always the most precise measuring tools, but they can prove to be very, very good. Another way to read this measured move would actually be to take it from the top here, which you can almost call it here, which would be 6,600, or if you want to be very aggressive here and be 8,000. Okay, but generally I like to call it on the break of the prevailing trend, and this is the prevailing trend line right here, and so this is the breaking point that takes us down to 6,000. So that could be in the cards there, and that doesn't mean we go straight down to 6,000. Okay, we could bounce and chop around like we do here. Looks like we're getting a little bit of a bounce here off of the 10.3 level, so we'll see what happens there. But Bitcoin 6,000 possibility. Check out for my webinar on my website, real-crypto.com. And it's going to be very pointed, unlike a majority of my videos, which are all over the place, kind of. It's going to be very pointed, extremely focused on market cycles. And if we go long, I really don't care, to be honest with you. I'm kind of planning my late Thursday evenings around this webinar. So the webinar time is going to, so far, about Thursday at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. That should put us at, I think, 6 p.m. Pacific and 9 p.m. Eastern. So hopefully everyone should be able to attend. If you don't mind supporting the channel and paying for a webinar. So I would appreciate the support of the channel. I would also appreciate the opportunity to give you guys a little bit of information there. So thank you very much for joining me. I appreciate it. Have a good one. Stay safe in Bitcoin. Keep your stops tight and keep an eye on this baby because we could be going much lower. All right, ladies and gentlemen, have a good day.